Hello and welcome to the coronavirus update for the 27th of March 2020, where the big news today, of course, is that the number of cases of coronavirus in America has overtaken those for China. And this is according to Johns Hopkins University. So we're going to take a look at that data and see what else we can work out from it. So this is, in the first instance, this is the data from the Johns Hopkins site. These are going to be uh, the days since some marker, and that marker in this case is going to be when the country had about 500 cases of the coronavirus detected. And for those who will inevitably say again that all the China data is fake, well, if they were faking it, they faked almost exactly the same spread rate as every other country for the first 5 days. Then they made it worse for the next 5 days, and then it got better. And now it's mostly under control to the point where China, a country that quarantined a city of 10 million people, a city the size of New York, put it on sort of complete lockdown, and 50 other million people besides, they're now talking about sending people back to school. So not something you're going to do if you're faking the data. And even if you were, that doesn't change the fact that what's happening in America is pretty bad at the moment. Now, people also informed me that this jump here, I thought this jump here was related to a spread outside of this big city. That's when they had to quarantine loads of other people. People have since told me, actually, no, that's they changed their detection routine or something. I don't know, but I mean, for the large part, it doesn't actually make that much difference. It's about that point there, I think. Boom. So you can, if you delete the point, does it really make that much difference? Or if you just change it to something like 50, or you might sort of say that these are all under detected, and right? None of this data is perfect, but the bottom line is China is now getting to the point where they're starting to reopen things. And of course, they're pretty hawkish now that they've got one of the cleanest countries on the planet about letting foreigners back in. And I think this is probably the way it's going to go for the rest of the world, that if you get your country under control, basically, sorry, no one's coming in once we've got the virus under control here. And I think there is quite a lot of sense to that. The irony being, of course, that with America, that might mean that Mexico might actually build a wall for America there. But anyway, what else were we going to look at? For those who just don't believe the China data, we're going to put in the South Korea data as well. Okay, so the South Korea data, the spread rate for the first few days, it's all actually pretty samey. And then, of course, people get on top of it to greater or lesser extents. And with Korea, it plateaus out pretty quick. Now, you might say that, hang on, these are the populations of the countries in millions. So America's about 300 million, China 1.5 billion, South Korea 50 million. So let's divide the number of cases by the population. And if we do that, we get these curves over here. Now, it's a little unfair, of course, because here we're starting all of our curves from when there are 500 cases in the country, which, of course, is a much smaller fraction of the population for America than it is for South Korea, but whatever. As a guide for the eye, these things can still be quite useful. And of course, like that, China looks fantastic because they've got some huge population. They only quarantined a 20th of it or something. If they're talking about quarantining 50 million people. And everyone else in these numbers is essentially just a buffer. for China. But this does give you the final number here is basically how infected your population is or has been. I'm just going to assume all the cases are active for the moment, just as a sort of guide for the eye. So this means that America is currently, it's not that different in terms of absolute cases per capita than South Korea. There's maybe a 40% difference between the two or something. The key difference, of course, is that for South Korea, these numbers aren't getting any worse, whereas for America, there's a 20-30% increase in the numbers per day. So this will just get much and much worse over the coming days. So let's come back to the absolute spread data. Starting from when there were 500 cases in the country, we've got South Korea, China, and America. Let's add the UK to this, and UK is not spreading quite as bad apparently. And let's put Italy on there because there was loads of data from Italy as well. And this is where you can see there's quite a lot of concern in the UK in that the numbers for the UK are almost exactly what they were for Italy. It's just 2 weeks behind. And okay, now let's put this into normalized per capita. And at that point, you find at the moment, by far the most infected country in the world, that I've looked at here, is Italy, where the number of people who are infected in Italy per capita is 10 times what it is in America. And even looked at like that, the UK is sort of comparable to America and only a few days behind. So yeah, it's not looking rosy. I mean, as Italy put in place some fairly draconian quarantine measures on, I had the date, when was it? It's the 16th or something, which I think is actually about here. You got to bear in mind I've normalized all these to when, in fact, no, I highlighted it, didn't I? I highlighted it. There we go. Yeah, it was the 16th. So it was on about day 16 is when Italy put everything into basically full quarantine. And so if America were to do the same now, you would maybe expect a sort of parallel trajectory. But for certain, this is per capita. That means that, 1 for 1, you're going to get 6 times the fatality count for America that you will for Italy. And I think Italy is up at, let me just check what Italy's currently at. Italy, I think, is at about 6,000? 8,000, damn. So Italy's at about 8,000, which means that, realistically, in 2 weeks' time, you're going to be looking at 40, 50,000 dead in America, something like that, which is a grim prognosis, but that's just the numbers. And that's assuming that this is actually under control. You put the exponent, right, I'm just going to add the rough spread rate that you got in America at the moment, which is about 1.25-ish. These are the spread rates, by the way, in America per day. So that's about the right spread rate. And we'll put America, if you don't do anything for curtailing the spread of the virus. Now, admittedly, huge portions of the country, something like a third of America, is currently in lockdown. But that was also true of Italy at this point as well. So if there isn't serious containment of the spread of the virus, merely if America gets to this point, you're looking at about 50,000 dead in 2 weeks. If you don't contain the spread of the virus, it's going to be, 2-3 times that. So, there is the rather grim analysis of the numbers for today. I kind of agree with people that it can be just kind of depressing looking at some of these numbers, but it's useful, I think, in many cases. I mean, there you go. America is on course for 104,000 by tomorrow. So this is the all of the up-to-date data. It's useful to keep touch with reality, even if it is pretty unpleasant news. And of course, the other thing that was big news today is Boris Johnson got tested positive for the coronavirus, which, I mean, there's almost a sort of poetic justice to it all, in that early on, back in this sort of region, the plan for the British government was basically the plan that the more hardcore Republicans were floating, that whatever, some people are going to die. That's just the way it is. And that was basically the UK strategy, is we would get a herd immunity. We'd let all the young people get it. And, 99, only 2 in 1,000 of them would die, which is, what fraction of a million is that? That's about a million that's about a million people. This was the British plan. You would get herd immunity by basically letting the young people get it and sheltering the old people, with a significant cost to life. And then that was it. You basically, your country is now kind of immune to it. This, of course, goes on the basis that there are no changes to the virus and it doesn't become more dangerous and all that sort of thing. That was Britain's plan, was herd immunity. And Johnson was, no, this is all the best scientific advice. That's why we're keeping the schools open, because closing the schools would do more harm than good. This was actually the British strategy early on. And it was only, back in this sort of region that Britain actually had a change of heart and said, okay, no, we're going to close the schools and we're basically going to put the country into lockdown. Because, when you just take a look at these numbers, right, even just for Italy at the moment, what were they at? There are 8,000 dead at the moment, and it's not even really slowing down. One of the biggest battles in World War II was D-Day. D-Day cost the lives of about 4,000 Allied soldiers. And, so there's a lot of people dying here. And it's true that an awful lot of them are old people, but about half of all the people who are going to die are going to be younger than 60. So, yeah. I wish you good luck again. And actually, let's see if we can just pull this guy over. Yeah, there we go. So this is the John Hopkins map. And it just gets uglier day by day. Yeah, I think you're really the best that we can do is you just got to hunker down, and in the hope that if you take it really seriously, you might be able to plateau it out for a country. And after that, you basically lock down the borders and don't let anyone in. Or if you do let them in, it's under strict quarantine type measures that if you come into the country, you have to isolate yourself for at least 2 weeks to make sure that you're not symptomatic, or you have to be tested if you're going to come into the country. Strange times that we live in. But anyway, so with that, I wish you good luck, and I think I'll probably do something a little more chirpy and optimistic for the next video. So look forward to seeing you then.